Hey everybody, welcome back. I think I have an interesting video today comparing two guitars, but before I get into this, I just want to thank everybody for the words of encouragement, kind words, support, etc. On my latest rant video. I do read every one of the comments that I get, and you guys are the best. So thank you again for everybody that responded, for the nice thoughts and words and support. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. So let's get back to this now. In any event, I've been wanting to do this for a while because these two companies are actually very, very similar from a business model standpoint and approach, and that's Monoprice and the newer entry on Amazon in the guitar world, at least, GearIT or GearIT, however the heck you pronounce that. So let's talk about the similarities of the companies. So Monoprice, as you know, is an electronics and accessories company, right? Make cables, audio gear, and components. They, a couple of years back, started the Indio line of musical instruments and amplifiers and bass guitars and a whole bunch of other things, right? And now they have a pretty decent lineup of acoustic and electric and guitars of that ilk. They were established in 2002, so the company's been operating now for 22 years. GearIT or GearIT similarly was established in 2006, so 18 years roughly they've been out there, and very similar to what Monoprice does in terms of selling. They started out selling computer cables and accessories, other types of electronic equipment and accessories, audio gear, and most recently guitars. Now they have a very, very limited selection of guitars, but they have branched out into musical gear. So with that being said, I have two instruments that I just want to review, and I've given a rating to based on a couple of different categories, which I'll go over on my experience with these things. Now, these guitars, if you go to each site, they do have their own sites where they describe these guitars. If you go to GearIT's website, you'll see that this particular model, the GST-200, is, I think the list price is $249.99, which is crazy. I mean, in all honesty, I think that I don't see myself as a buyer at that price. Similarly, if you go to Monoprice's website, this guitar here is showing for $189.99, although it is currently out of stock. And the reason it's out of stock is there was a blowout sale recently that I talked about, and I got this thing for $31. So when they have it on sale, it's usually about anywhere between $129.99 and $159.99. At $129.99, I think it's worth it, or $119.99 even sometimes I see it for. It's worth it. $31 was a ridiculous, price. It was a blowout price. I'm not sure why they did that, but it was there, and I bought it, and a few people were lucky enough to also buy it at that price before they sold out. This guy is on Amazon for, I think, $138.99 normally, and it's very, very frequently, as it is right now, on sale for $98.99 with an extra 10% off. So I got this guitar for like $88 and change, free shipping. So they're comparable, right? Comparably priced. They're a little bit off, but they're in the same ballpark. So let's talk about both guitars, right? And how I've rated these things. So first off, this is the Indio Monoprice. It's a Helix model, and this is what it looks like. See how well this comes out in the webcam. Back of the guitar. You can see the tuners there. Both guitars are made in China. This is the GearIT or GearIT. I'm going to call it GearIT just for simple purposes here. There it is on the headstock. Now, differences of the guitar appearance. Let's take the appearance first, right out of the chute. So the headstock on here is without the beak that Monoprice typically puts on its Strat-style guitars, which this is. This one I'm not going to compare because this is more of a Charvel Jackson type guitar from them. But I do like the headstock on the GearIT. I think it's simple. It's pretty close to the big F, but you know, it's not offensive. I kind of like it, right? And what else? This guy here, as I said before, has more of the pointy, you know, Jackson-ish, Charvel-ish style headstock. You know, whether you like it or not, that's a whole nother story. The sealed tuners on here, as you can see, you know, El Cheapo, import China tuners, right? It's got a matte finish to the back of the neck. And the neck on this guitar is somewhat, believe it or not, because it is supposed to be a metal guitar, thick. I think it's on the thicker side. It's certainly not an Ibanez Wizard neck or even a Jackson neck. It's got a little bit of girth to it, which is unusual for a shredder. This guitar here has more of a traditional, you know, thinner neck, I should say. Forget about traditional. And it almost feels like a D shape as opposed to a C shape. It's relatively flat. I don't know what the radius is. They don't list it. But it appears to have a fairly flat radius on this thing. More so than this guitar. And it does have gloss on the back. It's got a gloss finish. And the tuners here, as you can see, they go after that Clouson vintage look with these tuners. So that's just a quick, you know, overview of the guitars. Both are HSS, right? So humbucker in the neck, in the bridge rather, and two singles. The main difference with this guy versus this guy, a couple of differences, is that this has a push-pull capability. So you can split the humbucker and get the traditional-ish Strat sound of three singles, or approaching that sound, right? This guy, there's no coil split. And the bridge on here is floating, right? The tremolo is floating, so you can do a little bit more of metalish type, you know, tremolo use and dive bombs. Here it's flat, locked against the body. So this clearly market they're going after is more metal. This is more traditional rock, right? For lack of a better word. So let's talk about how I rated these guitars. So I rated them in 5 categories, just to keep things simple. Overall value, you know, price, and you know, what I think you're getting for your money with these guitars. Support from the company, and the support is made up of how do they respond, how quickly, what type of support do they have? Do they have a live chat capability, a phone capability? Is it purely just email, that type of thing, right? Quality, which is the overall quality of the components, the wood, the frets, the tuners. I've taken a lot of the different aspects of the guitar into consideration on that one. The QA, right, or the quality control before the thing ships out. So out of the box, how well it is in terms of finishing, fret ends, playability, string action, that type of thing. And then finally, pickups, right? Because that's an important part. I kind of separated the pickups from the components, from the tuners and the other stuff that I mentioned, because you know, it's important that the pickups sound fairly decent without having to immediately mod them or change them, right? So that's another category. So in any event, overall rating for each of these guitars, and I went through 1 out of 5 for each one of these categories, right? First of all, overall value the edge went to GearIT, in my opinion, because you got the push-pull capability on this thing. You've got a 2-point tremolo bridge on this guitar, and it's an ash body. That's what the wood is made of. So you get a little bit more premium, you know, more expensive type feel to this guitar than that for some strange reason. So I went with GearIT for the edge on that. Support, hands down, Monoprice, because they have live chat and they have a phone that you can actually call, a phone number, and speak to a live person, right, on there. And I've had, I don't know how you guys feel about it, let me know in the comments, but I've had no issues with returning guitars with them and getting refunds issued and things of that nature. So, GearIT, or GearIT, on the other side, does not have a chat on their website, does not have a phone number, believe it or not, that you can call. And it's simply, you know, one of these email forms that's on their website. And I've tried it out. They get back to you after a couple of days. And then, you know, you'll respond back to them and you won't hear back from them for another couple of days. You'll respond back and then you might not hear back. So support is less than stellar. Full transparency with this company. So you gotta hope that you don't have to deal directly with them. Now, in all fairness, I bought this through Amazon, so I'm not really worried about it. So if I have any really serious issues with this guitar that I find, I can return it and I have no problems if you buy it through Amazon from a return standpoint. But company support definitely goes to Monoprice. Quality, and again, I went through wood quality, component quality, etc. I'm giving this a slight edge to this only because the wood on here is premium ash, which is typically not found on lower end guitars. You're typically finding basswood and paulownia and poplar on the lower end of the price. This, you know, is a heavy guitar actually because of the wood used. This, however, is close because it's got a flamed maple top. It's basswood body, but it does have a flamed maple top. Now, even though it's a flamed maple top, and it's a cap or veneer over this, the flame is not really great, as you can see. It's very subdued. That's a nice way of putting it. So, I'm giving the slight edge to GearIT on that one. And components, I'm giving the edge to Monoprice because I think the stock pickups are better on the Monoprice than the GearIT, and I like the bridge. It's an actual Wilkinson tremolo system on here as opposed to just your basic, you know, pot metal bridge that you get on a low-end import guitar. So that's going to Indio and Monoprice. They come with gig bags here. This is the GearIT gig bag. It does have some padding in it, not a lot, and it has this canvas type covering to it. It does feel durable though on the outside. The Monoprice gig bag, on the other hand, is clearly, you know, it's structurally better. You can see it's not even bending. It's not flimsy. It does have, you know, a little bit of more padding inside here. But what I find the negative of this is that this material is paper-like. It rips very easily. In fact, here you can see I already have a tear. You see I'm sticking my finger through it in the top of the bag. So it's not durable. I don't think this thing is going to last too well over time. But nice touch in any event. And then, you know, I told you earlier, from an accessory standpoint with these guys, you're getting a tuner, you're getting an extra set of strings, you're getting picks thrown in, a strap. So, you know, they do throw in some additional, you know, gimmies on this than you get with the Indio. Let's talk about the guitars themselves. Now that I've given the overall value, the rating of the company itself. And the guitars. So this guy is, again, pointy, as you can see. I think it is targeting more of the young rockers and metalheads with this model, with the Helix model. HSS. The tremolo bar on here is one of these, not screw in, you just push it in to the Wilkinson bridge, which is kind of nice. And like I said, it is floating to some extent. HSS, no split, single volume, single tone, 5-way switch. The switch feels very, very sound on this guitar. And let's hear what it sounds like acoustically. Now, we'll go to the GearIT. This is more of your traditional Strat style looking guitar, right? That pointy, smaller body. Does have a carved top, which I like. That's the other thing that got it some points. This is your vanilla Strat style guitar. This is gray metallic. It has a little bit of flaking to it, as you can see, which is kind of nice. Both of these things from a block standpoint in the back have the very, very thin, tiny blocks. I believe they have smaller pots. You know, your basic low-end electronics. Let's see what this sounds like acoustically. So there's maybe a little bit more resonance here. I don't know. It's pretty much a wash acoustically. I don't think you're playing this acoustically most of the time, unless you're playing at night or where you don't have access to an amp. But yeah, so feel-wise, this thing is a solid feeling guitar. And if I had to compare this quality-wise to a Squier, a comparable Squier guitar, which is usually what you use from a comparison standpoint on lower end Strats, I would say this thing can go up against the Affinity series. For $98 and change, and if you can get it for $88 free shipping, that's not a bad value, because the Affinities now are like, I think the flame tops are $299, and the ones that are basic Affinity Strats are like $229.99. So this is, you know, half the price at least. And in terms of quality, you're getting, you know, a glossed neck, which is interesting, which you're not going to get on the Affinity. If you like that, you know, vintage gloss neck, you're getting a coil tap capability, which you don't get on the Affinity Strat. And you're getting, what else does this thing have that the Affinity doesn't have? Trying to think. Oh, well, the Affinities now have the 2-point tremolo system. But it's a very comparable guitar, in my opinion. Now, the pickups, full disclosure, are probably not as good on here as the Affinity, but it depends what your style is. Lower output. This is very interesting on this guitar. These have lower output and sound more vintagey than the pickups on the Affinity, the Squier Affinity. The Squier Affinities are higher output, more handle, you know, distortion extremely well. And they're ceramics. These are also ceramics, but low output ceramics. I would have thought these sounded better with distortion. That guitar, I'm sure they have ceramics as well, shines with distortion. And it's not too bad clean. This guitar sounds better clean. It sounds, you know, more nasally, more Strat-like than that guitar clean. The coil split capability is nice on the clean sounds. It sounds fine. The coil split works fine too with distorted, but the overall distorted sounds on this guitar are muddier than these, which cut through the mix, are sharper, more pronounced, louder, higher output pickups. So very interesting in that these are ceramic, but yet they get more of a vintagey sound, lower output. I almost thought they were Alnicos, but they're not. So that's kind of wild. What else? 21 frets on this guitar, which is, you know, your standard Strat, vintage Strat, 21 frets. They appear to be medium frets in terms of size. Here you have more of the metal configuration, 24 frets on that guitar. And similar, I think they're mediums. They're not mentioned by Monoprice, but they appear to be medium frets. The fretboard on this guitar, I don't know. Not mentioned by GearIT. So I'm assuming it's some sort of synthetic rosewood. That would be my guess. It's rosewood-esque in terms of color. Feel is hard to tell. But it does not feel like rosewood. It feels like some composite wood. They are similar on this guitar, although the fretboard is a tad bit darker on the Monoprice. They also don't mention what it is, so I'm assuming, again, this is some sort of, composite wood, right? Rosewood type, composite that they use for the fretboard. Let's see. Oh, the other thing. Fret ends. Huge advantage to GearIT. These come with rounded frets on this guitar, which is interesting. A lot of these lower end guitars are doing the rounded fret thing now. Again, I'm not sure how well you can see that, but they have rounded frets. Not a sharp fret up and down this neck. That guitar came with very, very sharp fret ends, leading me to believe that it was laying around the warehouse for quite some time. Temperature changes, whatever, but the frets were very sharp, and they still are, even though I tried to file some of them down. Very sharp fret ends. So that is a clear advantage to this guitar. Nut, both of them have cheap plastic nuts that are cut okay, but they are very inexpensive nuts, and probably one of the areas, if you do play out or a serious musician, might want to change the nuts on both guitars. Tuners, again. These are vintage style tuners that are not good. They feel plastic, actually. I think I mentioned that in another video. They're very cheap. They don't hold tune well. At least on this guitar, I can't give them a very good rating. These tuners, on the other hand, are closed back tuners, standard looking tuners. They have a decent feel to them. They have some resistance. They don't slip or ping. And I think the stock tuners on this guitar are definitely better on the Monoprice than they are on that GearIT. Controls, that is more of a standard Strat style guitar, so you've got a volume and two-tone, right? One of the tones I mentioned is the coil split. This guitar just has a volume and a tone knob, similar to how some Jackson guitars or Charvels are. Both have 5-way blade switches. What else? Yeah, guys, I think that's it. I'm pretty sure I compared both of these guitars as best I could and contrasted. This is the Helix Indio, and again, this is the GearIT GST-200. So, my final thoughts on these guitars. If you are looking for a budget metal style guitar, right? If you're playing Metallica or some of the heavier spectrum of music, you might want to lean towards this guy. It looks cooler if you're a young rocker than this. It has that carved top look. It does have that smoked, slightly flamed top on it. And it has the pointier headstock. It has the Wilkinson floating bridge if you want to do a little bit of the metal playing around. Histrionics, dive bombing on the guitar. This is more for that market, and it's a good guitar. If you can find this thing anywhere from, $100 to $120 or whatever, I think it's a very, very good value. Find it at 31, go out and buy it and run if you can find it. I don't know if they'll ever do that again. And this guy, again, if you're looking for starting out, learning, hobbyist, and you're looking for a Strat style guitar without breaking the bank, that looks nice and feels nice, this is a great guitar. coil split on the humbucker. A lot of versatility. You can get the humbucker or the single sound. The HSS configuration is very, versatile. Nice neck, thin neck, nice feeling neck, rounded frets, 2-point trem. Yeah, I mean, this guitar really has a lot of stuff going for it at the price point. Tuners are the weak spot on this guitar. They probably could use a replacement sooner than later. Pickups, I think, are okay. Not the greatest, but I mean, these are fine if you're just a home hobbyist and just, putzing around with the guitar, right? I think they're fine. It has a nice pick guard, 3-ply pick guard. Yeah. The only other thing, again, if you want to call GearIT and ask them any questions, you might be waiting a while because the support is less than stellar. Yeah, so great guitars. If you can find these things at the price points I'm talking about, for hovering around the $100, I think you can't go wrong with either one of them. Any questions, put them below in the comments. If you like these videos, please subscribe. And as always, guys, until the next time, be well and stay safe. Take care.